I'm Maurene Palmer and I am the VolunteeringWA liaison person for the Homeless Connect project, which means I oversee basically the VolunteeringWA operations for this project, and I work very closely with Maria Jelovic, who's our project manager. We work pretty much all year at a low level on Homeless Connect, but it really starts to ramp up from September on. We've got 3 months basically to put the final touches together, which means that we recruit several managers, one of whom would look after volunteer recruitment, one looks after service provider recruitment, and we also set up our donations warehouse. We recruit managers for that, and we also have a team of volunteers who come and help. I also look after the accounts and the budget and that sort of activity, keep a close eye on the money with Maria, and basically I just oversee that everything's working smoothly.
So is this your first year doing it?
No, I've been with Homeless Connect since it started 5 years ago, but it's only the last couple of years I've actually taken on the management role from VolunteeringWA. Last year I actually did the volunteer recruitment as well, and that was quite a challenge, but it was really good, and it's given me a fabulous insight this year to fine-tune some of how we do our work. Each year we've tried to improve how we go, to refine, to improve, to make it a better day, and to make it as cost-effective as we possibly can so we can give as much value on the day.
So what are the sort of the challenges for your job then?
I think certainly we don't have a huge problem in terms of recruiting willing workers. People love to volunteer for the project, they are quite taken with it. It's a matter of making sure that they are well prepared for what sometimes is a challenging day. It's a long day, but we are working with a cohort of people who may have some personal issues or find it difficult to be with people, to interact. So our volunteers particularly have to be very prepared for that, because we like them to have as much interaction as possible. We like to make it a day where we connect with the guests that come on the day, not only in terms of putting them with our service providers for their support, but also that human touch, that human connection. We've put a couple of innovations in that I think have worked really, really well, one of which was to have a photographer, Ian, and that worked wonderfully well, because a lot of our guests don't have a photo taken from year to year, or of their children, or of their families. That's been fantastic. There's just little personal touches like that that I think have made it challenging for us, but have made it really worthwhile.
So in comparison, is the Homeless Connect, it's not only just in Perth, is it? It's in other places in the world.
No, it is. It started in San Francisco. They now actually have bi-monthly Homeless Connects. They obviously have a very large homeless or at-risk population in the large American cities. It's in about 240 countries or cities in the world. Within Australia, we do it here in Perth. They also do it in Brisbane and on the Gold Coast. They have looked elsewhere as well, but I'm not sure if that's up and running. Oh, Sydney. Sydney has done it for the last 2 years. We are also trying to outreach to other communities here. It is up and running now in Victoria Park. They do a small localised one. We would love to do some work in some of the other areas that can just, I guess, places like Fremantle, Joondalup, where they may have particular cohorts of at-risk people. In Joondalup, it may be a younger group. In Fremantle, it's a whole mixture of people. So we are trying to take the model of Homeless Connect and plant it elsewhere. It works very well on a local basis, so we can see it working really well.
So you're working with the City of Perth, aren't you?
We do. The City of Perth basically underpin Homeless Connect. We get a sum of money from them, which allows us to then build on that. We get wonderful support from our corporates. Santos and the Petroleum Club hold a quiz night that adds a substantial sum of money to us. But our main support comes really from in-kind donations from corporates, and every aspect, I guess, right down to people donating clothing and goods for our shop. but right through to the actual infrastructure on the day. So as well as our cash support, we get an enormous amount of in-kind support. So we provide what I think is really good value for money for the day.
In-kind support? What do you mean?
In-kind support in terms of providing infrastructure on the day. For instance, the marquees are given to us at a vastly reduced cost. The hairdressers all come along. They bring their own equipment. So all that in-kind support helps us produce a day that allows us to provide a service not only from departments, housing, health, but we have the street doctor there. We have right down, as you know, to photographers, beauticians, podiatrists, so we can do the personal care as well as the more substantive needs that they might have in terms of living from day to day. But it's very important to us to value add. So without that in-kind support, we couldn't do it. The money we get is really important, it underpins everything we do, but the in-kind support is also just as important.
How is that organised? How do you sort of get people?
Through our event coordinator, Maria, who has a marvellous contact list. She's been doing event organisation, but in terms of the project itself, people are quite taken with it. They like to have something substantive that they can say, yep, I can give you 100 muffins for that, that's no problem. We get all the food donated, for instance. It's a matter of knocking on people's doors. And word gets out. We often get guests or volunteers who say, I know someone next to you who can give you 100 loaves of bread. We go, that's great, thank you so much. We don't have to pay for very much food at all. It all comes through donations. It's fresh, it's delivered, it's cooked up voluntarily by chefs, it's prepared for the day voluntarily. We don't pay for any of that. That's just an example of how the in-kind support allows us to present a day where people can come and get all that service from the service providers, all the lovely personal stuff, but can also sit down to a lovely 3-course meal with live music. So we make it a really special day as much as we can.
So the food, it comes from different organisations?
It comes from various organisations. We get a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables, for instance, from Belle Vista. We get drinks donated, we get milk donated, bread, muffins, anything we want really, we try and source where we could get that. And mostly they'll come to the party and say, look, that's fine, we can give you that. We find that we have now set up partnerships with a whole lot of providers and supporters and donors, and they are delighted that we come back to them. We don't ask a lot, so we know we can go back to them again and they'll keep coming. We also have developed partnerships with some private schools who get involved in what we call the bump-in to set up. So we've developed some fabulous partnerships along the way that help us produce the day at the most basic cost we can.
So it's not just on the day, is it? There's a lot of this preparation is where a lot
Absolutely.
of the sort of volunteers, and this is where all the donations come in before, isn't it?
We have 2 huge marquees on the day. One is for food, and the other one is for clothing, toiletries, all those things that people find very expensive to buy. We start that process 3 months out. Through the City of Perth we have a warehouse that we can store those goods in, but we have a whole team of volunteers who work for 3 months to sort everything out. They do a fantastic job. The warehouse is amazing. Everything's in sizes, it's clean, it's lovely. Clothing, someone can walk in and get themselves completely outfitted by walking in one end of the tent and walking out the other. And of course, if they go and get a haircut and their makeup done, they look $1 million, then they get their photo done. So that's the lovely day. That's the lovely part of the day. But they can also go to see in one day. They could go to Centrelink, they can go to Department of Housing, they can go to see the doctor, they can go to see the dentist. 40 teeth were removed last year. Dental care was ongoing. So all that is there too, and it makes it very easy for people who are often very disenfranchised to be able to go from one to the other and get some, if not all, their needs met, or if not met on the day, they know how to move forward. We also use our volunteers to assist them with that. We have meet and greet volunteers who basically are there to provide assistance, friendship, support, take people around if that's what they want, whatever they want to do. That's what our volunteers do on the day, and they're absolutely fabulous.
Okay, so the actual providers, because there's a number of providers who give the services and that, is it the same ones coming back each year, or are there new ones?
Yes, no, we build on that every year. I think the first year we had probably 40 service providers. Obviously, a lot of those were departmental people, housing, health, all those sort of people, as well as the not-for-profit organisations who work with the homeless people within the city centre. But we've built on that. Last year we had 75 service providers. That includes, again, all the major agencies. It includes lawyers, doctors, dentists, podiatrists. We have Specsavers that give us glasses. We have an optometrist to fit those glasses. So we can do the whole gamut. So it builds every year. We also have, as part of that, the entertainment on the day. We have the West Coast Jazz Club and their musicians, the Blues Club it is, their musicians come in and all day play for us, jam with some of the guests who wish to do that, as well as circus skills, art and craft activities. So we try and provide a day that can meet all their needs, if we can, in a fun way, as well as those very substantial needs that they may have in terms of getting their life back on track or getting some support for whatever they need.
So is there they come and, obviously homeless people come and see some service providers. Is there a sort of continuing type thing? It's not just that one day?
No, it isn't. And certainly that relationship is developed. Certainly if they can get some of their needs met, but it needs to continue on, that arrangement is then made with the agency. But I know, for instance, with births, deaths and marriages, last year they did 40 or so birth certificates. Many of our guests don't have a birth certificate, which prevents them from organising themselves with the banks, with the agencies, getting money from the government. If they can't provide that on the day, they will get a collection point for them, so they'll go and do that. The dentist comes, they do follow-up consultancies for dental work. Many of them have serious dental issues. So the dentist, for instance, will follow up and continue that process and that provision of service. The same with the street doctors. Often they can refer them on to someone who can continue that in a different way. So that ongoing support is there. And it's also about reconnecting. Many fall through the cracks. They can get themselves reconnected with Centrelink, with the Department for Housing, with the mental health team, with the lawyers if they need to continue an action that they may not have had the money to carry right through. So it's prevented them, for instance, from finding work or whatever it might be. It's a very complex set of circumstances for many of them, but if you can take them from one to the other and facilitate them, then seeing for themselves that they have a way forward, it makes a huge difference. And that's wonderful. We see many examples of that on the day.
So what do you get out of being involved with this?
Oh, I love it. It is just that. It is being able to think that in some small way you may have allowed someone to take a step forward, which may take them in a new direction, where they may have felt that they couldn't do that without the support. It's also about the joy of the day. A lot of the guests that come in are delighted that there's music and there's a lovely meal that with proper cutlery, and they can sit down and enjoy themselves. They mightn't do anything else. They can go and get some clothing and not feel as if they're second-class citizens. The clothing's very, very well prepared and it's well presented. I love it. I just love the fact that certainly we don't think we help to any massive extent. Well, we give them a damn good day, and in many cases we know that it moves them forward that little bit. And it's also about connecting one agency with another. Many of them work in silos. We found that that's another benefit when we were talking before about adding on. Many of the agencies start to talk to each other, share clients, refer them to each other in a much more, they make personal connections. And that makes a huge difference. So if someone comes in and thinks, I can't do that, but I know exactly who can. So that process has worked very well. And we find, I think, that's why our service providers keep coming back and keep bringing new people with them. So that aspect has worked very well.
Where would you like to sort of see it go in the future then?
Our dream would be to have a one-stop shop where we could actually have a permanent place in the city that people could go into and be able to be referred where they need to go. We do that on a big scale in one big park, but it could be with proper facilitation and support from agencies and from the not-for-profit sector that work with our homeless people particularly. We could coordinate that much better, and it needn't be a great big government bureaucracy, but just that connection and communication. We would love what we call a one-stop shop. That's a long way off. But even if in the short term, we were able to do Homeless Connect a couple of times a year, we'd be really happy. Or pay it forward, as I mentioned before, into doing smaller ones in more communities. We're talking to Geraldton, for instance, about doing one up there. They're going to come down for our day, and then we'll talk to them about how to set it up on a small scale up there to start off with, and it will grow if the will is there. And once you get the community working towards something, it works. It works. It's grassroots, and that always works really well.
Support then, where do you need more support?
Look, we always need money. There's no doubt about that. That gives us the flexibility to actually, particularly with what we see might be niche requirements in terms of, we would like to help, for instance, younger people find employment. So it would be nice if we had the money to be able to set something up on the day which allowed them to connect with someone with interview skills, to take them that sort of further step. It's with money you can do just about anything, but we certainly have niche areas that we could look at. We find there's a lot of younger people coming to Homeless Connect now. We know that there's a hidden youth homelessness. In some, they're not necessarily street or rough sleepers, but they will couch surf for years with no real accommodation. It stops their education completely. Their employment's often out the window. They often have other issues as well. We'd love to be able to do some more really niche stuff with particular areas of that cohort, I guess, that we could work well. But it takes money. It takes money.
What is the definition of a homeless person? It's not a simple one thing, is it?
It isn't. It's complex, and there are 3 levels of homelessness, and certainly everyone equates homelessness with the people that we call the rough sleepers, the people who have no accommodation at all, or who may just go back and forth to the agencies where they might get a night here and a night there. There is the secondary level, which are the often the younger group who will what we call couch surf, who may move constantly from one bed on the floor to a couch to sleeping in their car, whatever it might be. They don't have any permanent or regular accommodation. And then there is the tertiary homelessness where people don't have any real security of tenure. That is an area that's developing quite rapidly because we have an ageing population. We have in Perth now very high rentals. We have older women in particular, becoming homeless because they are single, they don't have the income, they have no ability to pay the rents. They often find themselves sleeping in their car, and that's become much more of an issue than it was even when we started. We're seeing much more single women. So you have those 3 areas where certainly we've got the rough sleepers, we've got the ones who don't have it, they move from place to place, and the ones who always have the threat of having to move or having nowhere to go hanging over their heads. It's a horrible way to live. It's a horrible way to live.